recording. هيك أحسن. بس recording عندي. So this is the regulation of the EU that we have to record all the sessions. So the session is now going to be recorded. So I'll just repeat so the recording will get it. We welcome Professor Piltzer. He's a professor from economics, and we are delighted to have you. This program is supported by the Erasmus Plus Capacity Building for Higher Education Institutions in the Middle East and North Africa. Welcome, Professor, and the floor is yours. You can start by introducing yourself and then go into your subject. It will be like 1 hour. You can take whatever you want, Professor. We are very flexible today. And then we can take, after the questions will be after the lecture as Professor prefers. So thank you everyone for attending, and Professor, you can start.
Thank you very much for your introduction, Dr. Daudi. It's my pleasure to have today the chance to speak with your PhD candidates about New Economy 3.0, sustainability, macroeconomics with green rendite. It is the time to find a new status of this world, because we are all knowing that the question marks before the pandemic in regard to environment, in regard to artificial intelligence, in regard to robotization and many other aspects were increasing during the pandemic, and in the pandemic new question marks were created. So we can say this is of course a changing reality in our society. As we all know, the abbreviation BC and AC, before Christ, after Christ. Therefore, we have the year 2021, but you can say before COVID and after COVID. And I'm a father of 4 children, and of course, first of all, a businessman as Secretary General of the AARMENA, which was founded in 1954 by the King of Belgium, the King of Spain, the King of Morocco, and the King of Thailand, Bhumibol, who was also an inventor, because the AARMENA at that time was the scientific sister of the European community. And I will explain later on, but what I want to say is, as a father of 4 children, I have to find the status, and I have to give to them an advice how they can come through this significant time of period with all these question marks. And on the basis of the pandemic, I'm living at Sidonia Castle, 92 kilometers far from Vienna, in a nice park. But in the pandemic last year, it was closed before summertime 65 days. And after summertime, 198 days till this year. And so I was not able to fly to my office in Belgium, to my office in Moscow. And this free time I was investing with my team to write this book, New Economy 3.0. So this is the reason and the opportunity which I have had with additional time to find a status and to replace the book of the early 70s by the Club of Rome, written by Meadow, Limit of Growth. It's not my understanding of the book, but it is the understanding in the meanwhile of the audience. The book was launched in September in Frankfurt among 50 countries and 10 ministers of different countries. And it is right now recognized as the 3rd school of Austrian macroeconomics, but on that I will come back later. So before I was and I am Secretary General of the AARMENA, I was investment banker for infrastructure projects and for proprietary technology with my partners in the US. And the time before, I was a managing director of one of the biggest transport and forwarding companies in Europe. But this was related to our family business, and therefore, as a relatively young man, I was in charge to serve as managing director for 35 companies with own sea freight, air freight, container business, and each kind of services in the international transport industry. So to be realistic, I have to say I'm 57 years old. And so in such a period of time, it's possible to do all these things, hopefully always in the right direction. Let's come to the book and to the relevant knowledge inside the book that this time for all of us might be creating an advantage to be familiar with this kind of realities. For me, it's clear where are the priorities of your studies, but I have to say we can speak about environmental politics, about social politics, about healthcare politics, about cultural exchange, about peace, without funds and without the correct economic policy. And before economic theory, it is only theoretical speaking and understanding. Therefore, of course, for each society, the economic aspects are the most important, finally. So the book, as I said, New Economy 3.0, Sustainability, Macroeconomics with Green Rendite. It's covering 9 parts, totally 504 pages. And the 9 parts we can see in this way. If I will take a narrative, take a stone, throw the stone into a lake, and surrounding to the stone, there will be one circle, a second circle, concentric circles. Let's say we have 9, but we will start not with the inner circle, we will start with the last circle. And like a deduction, we will go from out to the inner realities. The inner realities are the conclusion for a New Economy 3.0. So what you will find in the first part of the book? Of course, the economic theory. And in the economic theory, you have a lot of work and scientific approach since late 18th century. And what I want to try is to make a red line through the book and the different chapters, some of them more interesting, more relevant, other one completely might be artificial for some of you, but only to have an idea and to hear it once. In economic terms, you can start with Adam Smith and with his invisible hand. Afterwards, from Relevance, you have David Ricardo, Max Weber. He is well known for his sentence, "The end justifies the means." Walras. And then we are close to the end of the 19th, beginning of the 20th century with Karl Marx and his theory. We all know what was the impact of his theory. By the way, he wrote the book Capital in Brussels during his staying there. In the 20th century, it's interesting to recognize that by the end of the Second World War was the Great Bretton Woods Agreement. And 40 years exactly till the early 80s, end of the 70s, you have Keynesianism in the world. And what is the meaning of Keynesianism? I will tell in some sentences later on. With Margaret Thatcher in Great Britain and Ronald Reagan in the United States after Jimmy Carter and the disaster of his administration, was starting the concept of neoliberalism called Reaganomics and Thatcherism. The know-how and background for that was the Chicago School of Economics. And the Chicago School of Economics is based on the second school of Austrian macroeconomics. So you will see that the Austrians were relevant in the past for economic terms and are relevant nowadays. Small country, but creative people. So first, what you should keep in your mind is that till now, or better to say, till 2020, before the pandemic was taking place, as we are all knowing, we were living in a world of neoliberalism, which means less state, more private initiatives, which means privatization, reprivatization. And what is interesting, as I said, 40 years before, it was exactly 40 years Keynesianism. And the meaning of Keynesianism is more state. The state is controlling the economic sector. So in the first part, where we are speaking about the economic series, now we were entering to the second part about the economic politics as the outcome from the economic theory. And as I said, 40 years Keynesianism with a special case of Austria Keynesianism and 40 years neoliberalism. After these two parts of the book, the third part is the research and the analytics about all axioms of the Nobel Prize winner in the field of macroeconomics. The Nobel Prize were starting early 1901 and only by the end of the 60s, last century, the Nobel Prize for Economics was implemented as an award of the National Bank of Sweden. So all Nobel Prizes were given to the winner in Oslo, Norway, but the Nobel Prize for Economics, the event always will be held in Stockholm, in Sweden. So easy to see, more than 50 years, you have Nobel Prize winner in the field of economics. And what was relevant for us, for me, for my team, for the co-author of the book, and by this possibility, I want to say that the publisher of the book are IM and Meyer Hiram Rothschild of the United States. We were searching which of these more than 50 axioms of Nobel Prize winner in the field of economics are relevant for the solutions, for the problems, or better to say, exercises of this generation. Can you imagine? Finally, I have to say, maybe three. And these three are, first of all, Paul Romer. He wrote his scientific work about the catalysator and multiplies effect of innovation, of proprietary technology. For us, looks like completely clear that the future developments of an economic of a nation is related or are related on the inventions in the society, which means the state is responsible to make the right frame for innovators to have the possibility for research and developments in the field of proprietary technology. Secondly, Nordhaus. Nordhaus studies are related to the carbon tradings and to the carbon certificates, especially in the US and in Europe. And for sure, for the Nobel Prize Committee was relevant to find a solution for at least one of the main questions of our environmental policy, and Nordhaus was able to give answers in his expertise. There are some new aspects, for example, that the carbon trading realities can be done with environmental cryptocurrencies, where the environmental cryptocurrencies also representing a speculation in a positive way of understanding. And finally, not surprisingly, it's also relevant to speak about the developments and the modern concept of micro and macroeconomy in regard to the development of economics in terms of provide the society of poverty. And Deaton was the one who was dedicating his whole life work how we can solve the question created by poverty. And his concept is, of course, also related how to solve poorness in the society in economic results and answers. So we have Deaton, we have Nordhaus, and we have Paul Romer, and we have more than 50 others, which cannot give us any aspects to solve the existing problems in our generation right now. In the next part of the book, it's the fourth part, you can learn a lot about the financial crisis since the Middle Ages. Everybody is knowing the word Lombard credit. Lombard credit was coming from Lombardy, northern Italy, and the first banking crisis was in the Middle Ages, exactly in this part of the world. But more well known is the so-called tulip mania, 1637. Can you imagine if there was a flower, white, with white stripes inside? The speculation was reaching the worth of 2 houses in Antwerp. Craziness, like nowadays, with many other speculations, especially in the field of cryptocurrencies. We all know that after the First World War in Germany and in Austria, we have a hyperinflation. This means that you have to pay for 1 kilo bread 23,000 Austrian shillings, per example, or you were receiving on Friday your salary and on Monday it was only worth half of it. And this singular experience after the First World War in Germany and in Austria might be happened in some years for many other countries based on the fiat money, which means printing money with enlargement of the quantity of money without enlargement of productivity and the service center in the economy. Everybody is knowing 1929, the Black Friday, which leads to the deep depression in the United States and the situation in Germany and in other countries. After the Second World War, there was a hyperinflation in Hungary again. And then we have decades of prosperity, and from 1996 till 2000 on the stock exchanges were developed a so-called dot-com bubble, which finally leads to a crash on the stock exchange in 2000. Only 8 years later, the bankruptcy of Lehman Brothers in September was creating a financial crisis worldwide, and in addition, afterwards, a debt crisis in so many countries. And finally, Europe was paying the bill for United States. Here, it's one aspect which might be is catching your interest, that in 2001, the Austrian Chancellor, Dr. Wolfgang Schüssel, was launching the idea of an independent rating agency in Europe. Because in Europe, you have the domination of the big three, Standard & Poor, Moody's, and Fitch. And they are working as a monopoly, oligopoly, and controlling the access to the capital market. And of course, in 2001, Dr. Schüssel from Austria was not successfully with an independent new sovereign European rating agency. And what happens in 2008, AIG daughter in London was giving a better rating to financial derivatives of Lehman Brothers, that a lot of European banks were buying these financial derivatives and losing tremendous financial funds, which were only be able to prepared by the government, and the government gave the security for so many banks in Europe. We have had the crisis in Greek, we have had the crisis in Spain, in Portugal, and it took many years from 2008 till 2016 for one or the other country to solve this starting financial crisis, which was turning in a debt crisis. So, and in 2020, we all know that the pandemic was creating several lockdowns in one or the other country too. In Austria, we have had right now the 4th lockdown, very strict. And on the beginning, the Johns Hopkins University were estimating might be 75 million citizens will die on COVID-19. At the moment, worldwide, we have had close to 6 million. But what we have for sure is so many companies, middle-sized companies and smaller-sized entities which went bankruptcy. In Austria, there was additional budget to solve the pandemic with 50 billion euros. And this is comparable relative to the inhabitants, tremendous big amount where a lot of companies were safe coming through the pandemic. But nobody was expecting a 4th lockdown, and we have it right now. And again, the impact is that a lot of companies has to close their doors, not only for the lockdown, forever. In Hungary, for example, you have no comparable support from the central government because they do not have the money. If you see the participation of the European budget, what is coming to Hungary, the European budget is always covering a period of 5 years. And after 1.5 years, all the money which was coming to Hungary went to the project which were applying for the money before the money were available. And then they're waiting 3 years, 4 years for the next money for the European Union. This is not fair if you take under consideration that many countries inside the European Union taking the money and the efforts from the funds of the European Union, but not holding the values of the European on the same level. For example, in Poland, in Czechoslovakia, as in nowadays, of course, Czech Republic and Slovakia, in Hungary, in Bulgaria, where you have corruption and where you do not have a constitutional law which is splitting between legislative body and executive body. And for me, it's unacceptable to take the advantages, but not be on the relevant values of understanding of this time period nowadays. And the impact is to the audience that they are laughing about the authorities in Brussels, and it's showing the weakness of the leaders in the European Union. But on that issue, I will come back later on. So the question marks before the pandemic, mentioned by me before, of course, are in the field of environmental aspects, digitalization, automatization with artificial intelligence tools, with robots. And what was the great success of the 20th century? Of course, in Europe, to create the middle class. And of course, in Europe, to have more or less welfare state in function. But I can tell you exactly the great success of the second half of the 20th century, the middle class, is what we will lose in Europe in the next decade. And this does not mean that only the middle class will fall down in poorness. Also rich people will not change into middle class, will fall down also in poorness if we are not able to have a new policy and new programs and new answers of the existing questions. In part 5 and 6 of the book, we have to see on which different levels we are living and on which different levels, which kind of institutions are determining or at least influencing our life. Everybody from us is living regionally, local, in a nation, and supranational and international, and as a global citizen on Earth. But on each level, we have different key players. In economic terms, the focus is on 2 players. On the one side, the households, the private persons, and on the other side, the companies, of course. And if you go to all these levels, from local, regional, national, multinational, international, and global, you will see different key players. And the conclusion of these 2 parts of the books are that it's not understandable that organizations like Global 2000, Amnesty International, World Wildlife Fund are not accepted as sister organizations to the United Nations, because they will have enough funds and easier basics to do their worthful work for the society. And therefore, one aspect is to find a new structure for this kind of organization, especially if you're able to see with a lot of United Nations organizations where you have no real impact of their work. Austria and Vienna, especially as a neutral country in the world, is the headquarter of the Atomic Authority organization. It's the headquarter of the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. Of course, besides Geneva, the second place in Europe for the United Nations. Afterwards, in Addis Ababa, you have had the 4th headquarter of the United Nations besides New York. In these different levels, of course, you have strong, powerful organizations like the World Bank, like the Federal Reserve, like the European Central Bank, and like the MIGA, Multi-International Guarantee Agency, and a lot of others. One chapter in this part is dedicated to the independent sovereign rating agency in Europe. And you will be surprised that Eureka was able, in launching this year in April, the independent syndicate of an African rating agency. We were overwhelmed by the interests of different African nations. We have 55 nations belonging to the African Union, 10 of these 55 also belonging to the Arabic League. And we are working for all these countries to implement an independent sovereign rating agency. Of course, we are doing the same like Standard & Poor, Moody's and Fitch, with bookkeeping standards, with research in the annual reports and many other documents. But if you see the sample of Standard & Poor, which is doing the rating in Europe, 27 countries, plus Switzerland, Norway, and Great Britain after the Brexit, also showing the weakness of the European authorities. It was first of all the failure of the European Union that we are not able to give a perspective to the citizen of Great Britain to be part of the European Union. Now the European authorities are thinking, doesn't care. We have the Balkan candidates entering to the European Union, like Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Moldavia, and Montenegro, and others. This is completely not understandable what they have had in their mind to compare these countries for sure, which needed to be supported to replace Great Britain in the European Union. These are the level of understandings on the top of the European Union. I'm knowing personally the EU Commissioner Dr. Gio Hahn very well. He's responsible for the budget, and he was, as a young man, working for our law office of Dr. Michael Graf in Vienna. I'm also knowing the European Parliament Vice President Dr. Ottmar Karas. His father-in-law is Dr. Kurt Waldheim, the previous UN Secretary General, and I'm ongoing in Brussels. And nice lady van der Leyen, but she has no power and she has no impact with the European Union to the international policy. In addition, the weakness of the European Union has to be seen and understood for all of us with the weakness of the United States. And the Biden administration, for sure, it's not representing to be the leader of the Western free world. Of course not. And if you see, China was replacing many years ago Japanese as the second biggest macroeconomy in the world. It's only a question of some few years that China is replacing the United States on the top of the most potential countries in the world. And this is not only the success of China, it is first of all the failure of the US administration and also the weakness of the European Union. We have had in the past the so-called transatlantic ties between Europe and the United States, which were cut during the Trump administration and for sure will not be reinforced under the Biden administration. Question marks over question marks, but there are for sure solutions and answers available. Coming back to the rating agency, where the market is dominated by Standard & Poor, Fitch and Moody's, we are granting to the nations, and each nation, the 30 leading companies, 3 additional fields where they can have a better scoring. First of all, the environmental balance, how the company or the nation is dealing with their resource allocation, for example. Then the transparency indicator, a lot of money, US aid, it's going to Africa. And finally, you have a garage with a sign, and this was the proprietary technology project. But many countries and many companies want to have access to the programs and want to show to the audience what they have done with the money and what were they able to create with these funds. And this is valued by our transparency indicator. Then the innovation hub of a company, of a nation. I was in South Africa on the University of Pretoria, have done there a speech to PhD candidates about proprietary technology. Can you imagine? There's an innovation hub of 30,000 inventions in South Africa. And I was announced to make a portfolio of 5 of them for, at that time, Daimler Chrysler company. So the natural resources, the human resources, the wonderful nature in Africa, it's showing me that the real new world, if you want to find it, you will find it in Africa and not any longer in the United States, or for sure not on the old continent, Europe. During the 70s, where the book mentioned on the beginning, Limit of Growth by Meadows and Club of Rome, there was a new word creation, Eurosclerose. And we are still living now in an Eurosclerose scenario in Europe. And this has an impact of the citizen and the society in Europe. Finally, in the rating agency, you have the social corporate responsibility as an indicator to see that it's relevant how the company is dealing with their clients or the employer with the employees. And so you have the procedure of collecting data, selecting data, add these new data in these 3 fields to the selected data, and then you have to value the data, and for this you need benchmarks. Everything is done and will be done with regional analytic offices of ARA, where we have in each country our ARA, African Rating Agency team, indifferent to Standard & Poor in Europe, where for finishing the sentence, for 30 countries, they only have 7 branch offices in Europe. So this was a sidestep to practical understanding what can be the impact of a book, that you have the know-how, the scientific approach, and then the manpower to transfer your knowledge in economic terms and real projects. If you have still the narrative in your mind, you throw a stone into the lake and you have concentric circles, and we are going from the circles to the inner circles like a deduction. Then you will be able, in the 7th part of the book, to speak about the mindset. Everybody from us was hearing the politicians saying this is the biggest crisis since 1954 and they're printing money and so on. But never the time they were able to see that the mindset of the generation nowadays, it's completely different to the mindset of the generation after the Second World War. Your grandparents, parents were living at that time in the intention to have a little apartment, to have a car, to be mobile, to have the mobility which is needed. Once per year, you will go to a nice journey on the Middle Sea. And first of all, you want to give your children a better life via education. This was the concept, and the people were modest and satisfied. Nowadays, In German, you will say you have the Ich AG. You totally have to focus on yourself. You have the benchmark between work-life balance. And if the work-life balance not okay, you will ask yourself for what you are available on Friday afternoon, where you have your free day and other people are going on the beach or going to their friends or having fun and free time. And if someone will give an offer for one employee 500 euros more, and you were working 5-7 years in this company, educated from this company, you will leave the company because doesn't care. There is no ties between you and the employer. I can tell you, I'm coming from an old business family, and during the 60s, if you see how my grandfather, president of the Chamber of Commerce and International Forwarder, was living as a patriarch and taking care of his staff, of the family members of his staff, and all these realities, there was a complete different scenario. And even in the time of my father, you can find a different scenario. But nowadays, the Ich AG, AG means shareholder company, Ich, I am, and only I am counting. So this is not in the mind of the politicians, that the debts which now are created by printing money should be financed and paid back by this generation and the next generation. And if you ask one minister of finance, what is a seigniorage capital, then he has a question mark, because he's not knowing what is the meaning. I will tell you in some minutes. I only want to say another failure is that we are all thinking it's not needed that a minister of finance has a know-how about economics, because he has his staff, he has his advisor. But we are all knowing, if you have no idea, no clue about what is your responsibility, then you will have the wrong questions. And with this kind of advisor, he will receive the answers, the correct answer, but the correct answer of a wrong question. And so we are facing all these problems in Europe and in other parts of the world on different reasons, of course, but this is one reason of it. And so let's coming back to the seigniorage capital. If you are able to see the passiva of the balance sheet of the European Central Bank before the Lehman Brothers crisis in 2008, it was around 2 trillion. Before the pandemic, the passiva was around 4.7 trillion passiva, which means how much money you have had at that time in the markets of the European Union. And from the 27, 18 belonging to the Eurozone, as we are all knowing. So during the pandemic, this amount was increasing from 247 trillions to 72 trillions. And now you can estimate at what time our financial system will reach a collapse, because you have to compare this money amount with the gross national product accumulated of all countries which are belonging to the Eurozone. And this amount is, what do you think? Totally, I will tell you, 10 trillions. So we have 72 and 10 trillions. And if this policy is going on, then you will have by the end of next year 10 to 10 trillions, and then the crash will come. And the seigniorage capital is showing you these facts. But if you're not knowing what is a seigniorage capital, we will never see the upcoming problems for the Eurozone in the world. Please remind that Christine Lagarde was saying on the beginning of the crisis, we will hold the inflation rate at 2.3, 2.5%. Nobody's crying nowadays in Germany. During my book launching in Frankfurt, the Minister of Finance was telling to the audience about the key economic figures and performance indicators in Germany. And he said, in Germany, we have right now 4.7% inflation rate. Nobody has a problem with it because nobody is understanding it. And in the United States, what we have had 2 weeks ago, inflation rate, 6.3%. So it's not unrealistic about what we are now speaking and thinking, that this singular appearance of a hyperinflation after the First World War in Germany and in Austria, and after the Second World War in Hungary, might be, will be a common understanding for many countries on the world, especially in Europe and United States. China will see, wait and laugh behind the curtain. So in this part about social, cultural and moral, philosophical understandings, around 70 pages I wrote in the book. This is this one. I will show you this one here. 504 pages, as I said. And what I want to say is, in this chapter, part of the book about the social, cultural and moral philosophical patterns, I want to speak about two things. First of all, as I was in Far Middle East, I was really interested in to learn about the Islamic world and the difference between Shia and Sunnis and Alawites and so many different aspects, to get familiar about the Sharia. And on that basis, please allow me to speak some few sentences about the Roman Catholic Church. In Austria, in each little village, you have a church. And the structure of the society there is the mayor, then you have the priest, then you have a free fire worker team, and then you have a free music chapel, and then you have your football team. And this you can find everywhere. Nowadays, you still have your football team, you have your mayor, you have your free fire worker team, but you need 5, 6 regions with churches where you can find one priest serving to the regions there. In the theory, in the past of the Roman Holy Empire, about the two-sword theory, you have to understand one sword is the Pope for the liturgy, for the spiritual understanding on earth, and the other sword was in the hand of the Emperor of Austria-Hungary. So in Austria, you have such realities. If you go to Vienna, to the St. Stephan's Dome, and I can tell you, the church still have a lot of money. They have had last year an advertising from the roof, from the top to the town, from H&M. Congratulations, really nice. This is the way how I have to understand a spiritual place, to see the advertising of H&M in front of the St. Stephan's Dome. It's showing me that their cultural, social, moral, philosophical patterns are not in the right dimensions in our society. In 1962, Pope Johannes XXIII was starting the Second Vatican Concile to open the church very successfully. We have had by the end of the 16th with the guitar, the priest in front of the altar and singing, hey, hey, man, and such other things. It's really the liturgy and the mythology and the spiritual understanding for what we are all searching for in our life. Clearly, it's not. And the value of the church nowadays, it's not any longer existing. And this is giving a place to Scientologists and to other realities who are founding so-called churches in our society. This is a nightmare for me. And for me, it's also a nightmare that the key factor of our society, the family, not any longer in Europe having the worth which has it generations before. And this is showing me that the future developments for sure will not go in the right directions. In Europe, it's understandable that a woman want to have their own funds, want to have their own profession, and they will have for sure totally my support, like my wife, for example. But on the other side, the men were not able to show the woman the importance to be the heart of the family and the value to be a mother for the children. This not having any longer the value in the Western world. Therefore, till 30 years, no child's acceptable. With 30 years, at least one child should be to create a family and then again focus on the career. And in the meanwhile, the child is sent to the school and will be educated by the teacher. And how looks like with the teacher nowadays in the primary school, in the secondary school, in the high school. Sorry to say, my teacher, and I'm coming for sure from a real good education system, I can tell you who want to be a teacher, want to have 2 summer months free and half day free after doing the education of the children in the primary, secondary, or in the high school. So this not for sure the person who should educate my children, for sure not. Of course, I'm now speaking, let's say, radical about the things which happened in our society, but I only want to bring the spotlight what we really have and on what we have to work to have again the importance of the worth of family in our society as the key factor, as the genetic code of the development of our society. So on the other side, I want to say that our society is also a fatigue society and parallel an arousal society. We have had, can you imagine, in Austria, advertising to buy bread. Can you imagine? Over generations, centuries, bread and water was a key element for the society. Now you have to make advertising to buy bread in our society. Now, on the other side, milk was one of the primary things which we need to eat, to drink, like corn. But it has to be now lactose-free and gluten-free. Why? Because the overproduction and the frame to reach overproduction, it's creating not natural resources for us, and to drink milk, to take a corn, has an impact of us in health terms. Horrible. Again, a nightmare about we have to think and what we have to solve. And this is not new. So many aspects. We are aware about the Paris climate targets, yes, to solve the environmental impact to our society. But in 1992, you have the Rio Declaration on Environment and Development as the Agenda 21. We all knowing it, but we are doing nothing. That's the case. And then, of course, now a wonderful chapter has to be opened. The conspiracy theories which are accompanying us, especially during the period of pandemic. How stupid we are in common. And finally, we are able to check out the secret society of the Bilderberger or the Davos Economic Forum or Soros want to create a world central government to control everything. If I'm able to see the Yellow Jacket movement in Paris before the pandemic, because the people are working 2 jobs and not able to serve their life, to pay their apartment, to have enough funds for education, and to go to the university, and at least 1 or 2 times per month with friends to drink something in a pub. It's not possible. And then we are surprised that the people are going to the street with yellow jackets and not accepting that most of us living under not correct circumstances, and few of us are having more money than ever before. What is the background scenario for that? I will tell you. Because the financial and capital market sector, it's 20 times bigger than the real production and service center. It's like in the pandemic. The world economic scenario, it's living in such realities, and most of the people are living in a digital world where 30 Facebook friends more counting than 1 real friend. Regarding a world central government, I want to remind you on Thomas More's, on his book Utopia. How old it is, I will tell you. 505 years, written in the early 16th century. And at that time it was utopia, and now it's a utopia because finally the World Economic Forum in Davos, Bilderberger, Soros and others have children, have a family, and they want to live in a world where all the people are on the street, and instability, it's the key factor of the growing issues of our society. For sure not. For sure not. About this and many other aspects we can speak later on as well. The deduction now, it's coming to the new economy 3.0. And Ludwig Wittgenstein, of course, it's well known for all of us, which great characters we have had in the human society. Really, I'm thinking now on Baruch D. Spinoza, who was writing the book about ethics and his feeling of the worth of living a life dedicated to others and orientated in ethics, were creating the misunderstanding that he's believing on a different kind of God. And the impact for him was, as a Jew, to be excluded in the society of the Jews, which means you cannot survive at that time. And he was serving his life to work in an optical shop to prepare glass for spectacles. Baruch D. Spinoza, ethics. But Ludwig Wittgenstein was coming from the most richest families in Austria, like ThyssenKrupp in Germany. And he gave all his fortune away and was acting as a teacher in a primary school in Great Britain, as we know. And I was structuring the new economy 3.0 in the way how he was structuring his Tractatus. So this means that I'm starting with postulates, then I have supporting lines categorized as auxiliary sentences, I have axioms, I have Piltzer Rothschild theorems, totally 12. And first of all, it's easy to criticize, it's easy to describe, it's easy to have an understanding afterwards what happened before. But in this book, we have 68 advices to the decision makers on Earth, what they have to do and what they should do. So it's now 1 hour, 50 minutes. Let's coming to the last part of the book. It's here I was able to make future research and to be connected to the book. The last part of the book, it's called Post-Sustainability Macroeconomics. Everybody from us, it's knowing how future research were starting by people in the field of literature, like Jules Verne. He wrote in 1864 the well-known book Voyage au centre de la Terre. Some years later, 9 years exactly, in 1873, he wrote the book 80 Days Around the World. All the time, creative, intellectual people were thinking about the future. I have had the honor knowing John Nesbitt personally. He wrote the book in 1982, Megatrends Asia, where he was able in 1982 to see that China will replace Japanese and finally will replace the United States as the leader of the free world. Nowadays, we are knowing Elon Musk with his SpaceX program and settlements on Mars, or his Hyperloop transportation technologies together with Dirk Alborn, how we can be faster in our logistics. And we all have sometimes the feeling this is an extraterrestrial element in our society, the artificial intelligence, but it is not. Everything is done by ourselves and everything can be controlled by ourselves. The future, it's what we are intending to do. And the main questions were all the time the same: where we live, how we live, with whom we will live, in which way. And so new mega trends are not so far from old mega trends. We have to build robust bridges to the future. We still have to hold power of center in regard of economic political things. We have to solve the anti-aging understandings in our life. There was a famous cardinal where the Roman Catholic Church still was relevant. It was Dr. König, and his assistant was the university professor Huber. And he told us, I have to tell you, all of us will reach the circumstances of life in the age of 40, like all generations before. But what is different? We will remain on these circumstances the next 30 years. That's interesting. And so a positive aspect of anti-aging understandings in our society. And of course, finally, we have to catch the harmony between economy and ecology. And I'm finishing my overview in the intention to remind all of us that, again, one Austrian in the early 80s was able to see that this is possible, the harmonization between economy and ecology. and he was founding the so-called Eco-Social Forum, which was turned later on to the Marshall platform in connection to the Great Marshall Plan after the Second World War. It was the Vice Chancellor, Master Engineer Yoshi Riegler, who was a visionaire at that time, but he was in a coalition with a banker, Franz Franitzky, who was present in the media, and he was finally not able to launch his understandings about eco-social forum based on the Christian moral theory, where we are nowadays orientated in the Paris Treaty, which was influenced by him and his knowledge more than one decade before, but he was starting to work on that issues in 1987. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we should keep in our mind, and we are knowing it all together, the future depends on us. We have to learn from the history to understand the present realities, and we should accept and understand that we are crucial for the future. Let's ask you how you were living today your bathroom, how you were living today your breakfast table, and how you were living your bed. Everything in good conditions, hopefully. Then you are part of the right movements that we are responsible what happened in the future, and it is not an explanation to think it's an extra territorium impact on us. Nothing. It's everything done by us and created by us. And finally, I want to tell you, I'm a completely optimist. I'm able to see that the society always is able to solve their problems. It's oftentimes a clash between crisis and realities, but human beings always learning and always find, like water, a way through all these realities. And in this way, I want to say thank you to be patient, to be concentrated and listening what I want to tell you as an overview. In detail, of course, it's much more interesting, but we have 10 minutes where one or the other question can be answered by me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor, for this enlightenment about the economics of this new generation century. So now we would like to open it for questions, and we are opening for questions for anyone who would like to participate in the question session. So we have Abdul Ghani. You can start if you like.
Hello, hello, Professor. Thank you so much for the interesting information and the sequence, the historical sequence you used at the very beginning that helps someone like me who is not interested or who doesn't have a discipline like this. I'm not interested in such a discipline. It's not my own, but you make me follow it in a very interesting way. My question is concerning the financial crisis and the expectation of it. When England or Britain would like to leave the UE or the EU, sorry, European Union, they expected that there will be some disasters, economic disasters, or for example, it will be very bad. But I think when it left it, it's not as they expected, especially when we have a pandemic. You know, it should be worse, much worse. You know, so who expects such expectations? They are academics, experts, and some famous scientists in the world, but sometimes their expectations are not or don't come true. What I said now is right, that Europe is not affected such way. And another question, I'd like you to excuse me concerning my question, because I'd like to ask it for my own self. Can I guess that there is a ghost having a remote control controlling the economy all over the world? Sometimes we find crisis, financial crisis, and it is solved in a certain way and so on. But I'm not. It's not my own discipline, so excuse me if I have some wrong information. Thank you so much.
Abdelghani, thank you for your two questions. First of all, I want to express my clear understanding. It's a tragedy for Europe that we lost Great Britain. And as I said in my statement, first of all, the failure was on the side of the European Union. We were, and this is also a part of the answer to your second question, we were all waiting on the results, what finally the majority will do in regard of participation in the European Union. And then we were surprised that with fake news and with wrong promises and with deducted misleading arguments, the majority, especially on the countryside, were voting for the Brexit against the European Union. And where was the active element of the European Union? If I'm commissioner in the European Union, I will take a flight, the train, to go to Great Britain, to speak with the people, to explain. I will have a video, I will have advertising, I will show to the people where are the advantages of the European Union. What was the great success of the European Union? Hundreds of years, I can tell you, and you are knowing it. The Britons were killing the French people. The French people were killing the Britons. Both of them were killing the Germans. The Germans were killing the Russians. The Russians were fighting against the Austrians and Germans. The European Union is first of all a great freedom progress inside Europe. And then we were developing economic programs and other aspects. And that was sold for fake news. And it is, of course, a fake news if we have the understanding there is a central moment conducting the financial crisis. I will tell you the truth is that the passive on the people and on the decision makers, it's creating crisis. That we are able, it's like a dancing on the volcano. We are able to see the next eruption will come, but we do nothing against it. And then we ask from where this energy, in this case, negative energy, it's coming from. Of course, sometimes there are speculation. Sometimes there's a policy which will be fulfilled successfully for some of the key players. But in general terms, I have to tell you, there's no conspiracy theory. There is no global concept from some few against all others. There's only a great passive behavior from the people who has to make the right decisions for us.
Yeah, thank you so much for the answer. And I noticed that the one who was affected by such leaving is England itself. When they have a crisis concerning the drivers of the
Trucks.
Yeah, trucks. They needed now to search for people from outside, or from abroad. Thank you so much, Professor. Thank you.
With pleasure.
Yeah, Muhammad, you can ask the question.
Thank you, Dr. Riyad. Thank you, Professor. It has been a pleasure to join you in this lecture. I would like to ask you about, after economic crisis, usually we can have like an era of corruption. My question is, because I'm in Libya and we are living in the era after the war. So my question is, how can we make function of the corporate governance in order to supporting credibility and transparency for the economic, from my specialist, I'm especially in commercial law in Libya. So I'm trying to write about how can we make function of commercial law in order to supporting the credibility and transparency in order to supporting the corporate governance for the economy after the war, of course. Thank you.
Relevant question. First of all, I have to say that the Americans and Europeans are not able to see that it is needed an adaptation of principles in the field of democracy. We always try to export our democracy to countries where the social cultural patterns and the history and their orientation completely different. And we have to anticipate that if we want to transfer our principles with no adaptation to these different societies, will never work. We cannot bring democracy to Afghanistan in this way. We cannot bring as US democracy to Iraq in that way. We have to see in the north, there's a Kurdish society, in the middle, you have the Sunnis, in the south, you have the Shias, and all of them have a different orientation. And first of all, they are orientated not in borders, they are orientated in their tribes, they are orientated in their family leaders, and they have a completely different understanding in so many aspects, but we do copy and paste. Friedman wrote the constitutional law for Iraq, and after the first assembling and free election in 2004 and 2005, what was the first impact? In the constitutional law of Iraq, all chapters granting support to the women were cancelled, because this kind of society are living on different ideals. I have had the honor to work for the Kissinger Association, and I'm knowing Henry Kissinger personally. And he told me to understand the different realities in so many countries, like your country, Libya, and other countries, is to see in which time they are living. Let's say US is living in 2021. Then Great Britain is living in 2018, Germany in 2015, Austria in 2010. But Turkey, for example, in my understanding, it's living in a different time period. And this is not valuing from my side, because in Europe, if I'm speaking about Western Europe and Eastern Europe, for you it's different. I want to tell you, the first understanding is I'm valuing, yes, Western Europe, it's more than Eastern Europe, but it's only to have a regional focus that we are knowing about what we are speaking, and to compare these different societies and the implementation of a civil society. It's the easiest way to understand that Turkey, it's living in the year, I'm not telling, but because the impact to say something wrong about Turkey can catch you everywhere, yes. But on the other side, you see the policy and the weakness, the transatlantic ties between Europe and United States. Turkey, it's a NATO partner. On the one side, in Syria, were the Kurdish people fighting for freedom, Turkey, it's against the Kurdish people because on their own problem inside Turkey and northern Iraq. So supporting in this way the administration of the establishment. And on the other side, in conflict to Russia, to have border control, they have common forces with Russia as a NATO partner. What I want to say is that the political reality is always completely different after the realities in a theoretical understanding. And if you asking me how to anticipate the mechanism after a war scenario in your country, then again, you will be able to see that the world is not fair, and the world is not a fair place. And a war only means in some parts of the world that the power is changing from one group to another group, but the other group it's working on the same principles as the reason to start a war against the old group of power. General speaking, and so the impact of a war scenario in many places of the world is that only the center of power it's moving, but the frame for the society is not changing. And exactly this should be the support of the European Union to strengthen the structure of associations inside the country who are having the right targets, but not the tools to work for the targets, and to be protected in the period working for this kind of targets, because they are always under danger. And finally, the new authorities in conflict to such organizations are having the power to give the penalties to stop their worthful work for better society, for the implementation of a civil society. And of course, as you said, the constitutional law and the law frame, at least it's the starting point where the executive has to be obliged on the law system. The legislative has the power to judge wrong directions theoretically, because the realities are different. And there are only some few samples in the world where after a war conflict, immediately positive realities were appearing into the communities of nations in the world. In reality, it takes many generations that really something is changing. And therefore, last aspect, I have great respect for the migration of people from other countries, because my understanding is that most of the people who try to come to Europe, they are ambitious. They want to have a better life for themselves and for their family, and not to take the welfare state issues to them. They want to live in freedom. They want to work. They want to develop something, and they want to protect their family. So your answer in general terms, your question in general terms cannot be answered. But in detail, for sure, on each question you have an answer, and you will be able to see the problems which you are facing. And for each problem, you need a portfolio of activities to undermine, finally, to reach a common target.
Thank you, Professor. This is covering my question and even more. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Professor. If Ilyas, maybe he would like to ask a question. Ilyas, maybe you introduce yourself and then you can ask the question.
We cannot hear him. He is off record.
Yeah, you are muted. Yeah, now, okay.
Thank you. Do you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
I can hear you, Elias.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Dr. Riyad. Thank you, Professor, for this comprehensive introduction. And I have a comment, if you don't mind, please. I think regarding leaving the European Union, regarding the UK leaving the European Union, I think leaving the decision to the British people to decide was not a wise political decision through a referendum, because the ordinary British, as you said, in the countryside, doesn't know what are the benefits of joining the EU to the UK. So that was wrong from the political level side of the United Kingdom. Regarding the EU example, how countries, how economies can complement one another, I think this is a great idea for to be duplicated in the case of the Palestinian-Israeli issues, economic issues, where both economies do not really compete with one another, but they complement one another. I think it is really worth studying how both economies, the Palestinian and Israeli, can complement one another and contribute to the benefit of both sides and for the region as well. And ultimately, that contributes to bringing both people together as well. Thank you again, and these were my 2 comments.
Elias, I want to tell you that I was in Jordania in refugee camps where I saw the value. I saw thousands of tents, and then I saw a flag about the Palestinian understanding. And I have to tell you, it's really makes each person with feelings and with a right understanding said what you are facing there. And it is explaining that in one tent might be 3 generations are living. Grandfather lost his house, father never has had a job, and the son has no education. And exactly on that point, for the son, political activities might be starting against themselves and against human beings. What I want to say is that we always have to see the implication of something. Finally, we only judging what happens, but we have to see from where it's coming from. And it has to be solved, this entire problem between Palestine and Israel, for sure, and Europe, again, only looking and doing nothing of importance. It's washing the eyes and nothing else. And as long as we do not have a fair harmonization in this part of the world, we will still have realities which we do not want to have to nobody on both sides, of course. And I can say that I have the honor to be in contact to Muslim people, to Jewish people, to Christian people, like your studies also covering all these aspects, finally to have a conclusion how we are able to make this world for a better place. We are always judging on associations to words or to situations and not on fundamental data. Why? It's coming in my mind if I'm speaking about make the world a better place, and in the second we are all thinking unrealistic, or we are thinking it's like a wish from contest to be Miss Universe. If she's asked what is your greatest wish, and she will say world peace. But finally we have to work in this direction because it is crucial, and it's unacceptable that human beings with the same worth have so different lives. And everything, we cannot change the world everywhere, but we can change our world. And where I am touched by realities on my business trips, on my journeys, on my obligations to my family, to my staff, to people who are counting on me. If I'm doing this right, then it is just a little bit to make the world for a better place. And this is the reality for all of us. And Elias, thank you for your comments. And hopefully I'm not touching feelings in the wrong way. This is where we can discuss many hours. And finally, we have no conclusion, but it's not needed. We have to accept each other in our understanding, and we have to see what in any case, without misunderstandings, has to be solved, that this world, it's a better place for each human being, because each human being has the same worth, but not living in the same standards.
Thank you. Thank you. Much appreciated.
Thank you very
So,
much.
gentlemen and ladies, surprisingly, really, I have a second conference today in Accra. And Dr. Dowdy is informed about it, and that I have the opportunity and the pleasure to speak with you. I gave a video message 2 days before to the audience, but I have promised to them that I will participate in real to the conference in Accra, which is launched by my ARA team and the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Africa and Asia. And I want to write on the group my email account. If there are further informations or needed details, please feel yourself free to write to me. And I'm looking forward on the next invitation by Dr. Dowdy. And again, thank you for the possibility to be with you and your PhD candidates. For sure, it's always inspiring for me to have the chance to be in interaction with all of you. And I hope we see us soon again. This year, realistic speaking, not. And therefore, I would like to express my thoughts for all of you to have a better 2022, and more than this, the end of the pandemic, or at least no additional lockdown, because as I said at the beginning, the most important things are the economic terms, and the pandemic and the lockdowns are destroying our economic frame. And so prosperity to all of you. And thank you again for listening. Thank you, Liat, for the opportunity, and looking forward to see you all again in good conditions.
That's excellent, Professor. Thank you so much. So if anyone does, I don't know if anyone has do you have any time yet, or that's it, Professor? What?
I have now to leave with your permission, and okay. I will write my email, my personal email account on the WhatsApp group, and I'm really looking forward to be again together with all of you. And therefore, with your permission, I will say goodbye and all the best for the next upcoming year.
Okay, thank you, Professor. Thank you very much. And we are very happy that you made it and gave us the lecture. We're all delighted. And we would love that to have you another time in another session as well. Thank you very much. And thank you, everyone. And we will go to a break for 10 minutes, and then we come back with applause for Professor Piltzer. And here is it. Thank you very much. So after
Dr. Iyad, your microphone is muted. We can't hear you.
I am sorry. Now I am back online, right? It's working. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Yeah, okay.
Let's see. Okay. So thank you very much for being here. Actually, let's go do a break and we can come after how long you want? 10 minutes is good, or 15 minutes? Like at 5? I think at 5 is good. So I'll give you a break 15 minutes. What we are going to discuss after that is, I don't know, someone is doing, yeah, that's excellent. So we'll take 15 yes back at, yeah, and we'll talk about how we can apply for AARMENA PhD program. And then we can also open discussion for everyone. So not just to know who we are and, you know, to open the views. So we'll see you at 5. Of course, 5 is German time, Berlin time zone. That's all I want to tell you. Hello, everyone. Are you still there? Should we start?
As you wish, but I'm not sure that everybody's back.
Okay, we'll give them some time. Are you with me? Should I start?
Yes, we can, Professor.
Okay.
Yeah, we can.
So that's why we are all here. You want to understand how we apply for a AARMENA PhD program. So let me speak a little bit about AARMENA. AARMENA is an academic alliance for reconciliation in the Middle East and North Africa, and it works that we have different universities from Europe and Arab, Middle East and North African, and also US professors. We are working together to develop reconciliation in higher education institutions and peace studies, reconciliation and peace studies. So this program, we are part of the Erasmus Plus. We are not just Erasmus Plus. We are part. Erasmus Plus is co-funding us. We started in 2018. From 2018 until now. In 2018, we did the conference, the first conference for the AARMENA, and it was about developing the coalition, the academic alliance, with all Arab universities. Many Arab universities came, about 22 universities that participated in this AARMENA session. And then what happened is that we did the inauguration of the AARMENA, and we decided to name it the Academic Alliance for Reconciliation in the Middle East and North Africa. And then we decided to do joint publications. We are publishing the book Reconciliation with Refugees. It's coming out in January. And then we are publishing now a new book as well. It's called Heritage, Reconciliation and in Social Inclusion. You also can participate in the publications, and you can send articles to us as well. We signed an agreement with Springer to publish for us 2 books per year. So we're also going to publish we're going to publish the PhD work for PhD students as well as professors that are working with us in this program. It's not a program, it's an alliance. So the alliance make bigger. In 2019, we applied for reconciliation, conflict resolution reconciliation with 3 Palestinian universities and University of Granada and AARMENA again, and we got the grant. And now we applied as well for 8 universities in 2020 for Erasmus Plus, and we also got the grant again for another one for developing this, what you are now part of it, reconciliation and peace studies, and developing curriculums in the higher education institution in the MENA region. So we also develop at the master programs at the university in the MENA region. So this is the second program, the third program that we are working in, that you are now with it. With this, they're having the master program, we developed the PhD program. So they will be interactive within each other, both of them. They will interact, so people who can study at the master program, and then they can continue to develop it, to do a PhD program. So this is how, and it's all supported by the AARMENA, the Academic Alliance for Reconciliation, Middle East and North Africa, the AARMENA Alliance. And we also are doing, as I said, we are doing publication and we are doing conference. So next year, we're having in August the conference. It will go, I think it's going to be hybrid. So you can be either coming to Jena to come and speak in Jena, or to just, you can speak online as well to present. So if you want to be part of the conference and you want to speak about, present your lecture about something that you're researching, you can also apply for us. The call will be out soon. I will share with you the call for this conference that will happen. More than that, we're having actually a workshop in the coming week. We are developing the curriculum with the 6 universities in the Arab world. And some of you are working with us on this, and some of you are not. We are welcoming who can come actually and attend. It's in Jena. And we hope, we try to make it also hybrid, but I don't know how much, if we can make people who are not part of it, because it's kind of like, not a private, but only for universities that are part of the project. So this is as well, I wanted to say. Now, let's go, I'll do sharing. So you'll see what is AARMENA exactly about. So we have different aspects for the AARMENA, as you see. Just a moment. So this is the website of the AARMENA. And until now, the AARMENA is hosted under Friedrich Schiller University. So the degree, when you apply for us, you get a degree from Friedrich Schiller University. So this is where who is hosting us and is hosting the whole program. I don't want to go into everything, but maybe I can show you a little bit about who we are, and then we go into little by little what we are doing. And these are our partners that we are working with them, as you see. We are from Lebanon, from Palestine, from Jordan, from also Palestine, Najah, Jerusalem, Ankara University, Zaytuna in Tunis, Al-Amana in Oman, in Maghreb. We also have Algeria, as you see, Algerian, and you have also from Dubai, and we have also from the US, and Notre Dame, US, and they have the UNESCO Chair for Peace, University of Innsbruck. Now you know them very well because it's Wolfgang Dietrich, and we are working with the University of Granada as well. These are our partners in the project, as you see. And here are some of the symposium that we are doing. So as you see, we had 3 in 2020, 2018, 2020, and 2022. So 2022 will be, we are working on what we say reconciliation, conflict transformation, and peace studies, transdisciplinary research in the field of higher education. This is what we will do in the conference that we are going to make in August. So this is, I'm just telling you, and the call will be out soon, and you can participate in it. As you see here, you have an online, also we did this last year in 2020, and this is how the conference, we had 107 professors participated in it from all those universities. And then in 2018, now the Heritage and Reconciliation, we are developing the book, Heritage, Reconciliation, and Social Inclusion for the MENA region. You are also welcome. The deadline is January, actually, only 1 month left, and you are welcome if you want to apply, try to publish for yourself an article in it. We welcome that you try, but we don't promise that we take the article because it's going to be peer reviewed, and then we can take the decision whether the article is going to be published or not. So this is about the conferences that we are doing. Research projects, we do joint research with different universities, as you know. We apply for Erasmus Plus grants and DFG grants and DAD grants, and also we also like our students to apply for grants as well. So now we come more into what are the scholarships, or what can we bring as scholarship. Now, University of Vienna is a public university. So the scholarship that you can get out of Vienna is to apply for the government, which is at this stage is DAD or DFG. But the issue, you have to be accepted. You have to have a paper of acceptance. Once you have this paper of acceptance, you can apply for any institution in Germany to support you in your PhD, and they support 3 years. So this is not hard to get the support. It's and it's not easy. There's an application you have to fill. You need the support of the professor, the support of the university as well. And then you can apply, and you apply with different, and the University of Vienna itself, it has its own as well scholarship that you need to apply for it as well. So this is how some of the scholarship. I'll go to the PhD program. So here is the PhD program. It is called Reconciliation and Peace Studies, Conflict Transformation and Peace Studies. So it's a 3-year program. So you can apply, and you'll have a 3-year program to be part of this program. And how it works exactly. So you need, at first, let's go to the frequent asked questions. So these are the courses that we have taken. You saw a methodology course with Luis, and this is that we are now doing with Professor Leiner, Professor Vermeck, and Professor Wolfgang, and myself. And now we go to the frequent asked questions. So let's see what is Reconciliation, Conflict Transformation, and Peace Studies program. So it is a 3-year program to develop your doctorate, and you have to be accepted by 2 professors from the University of Vienna, and one is recommended, not obligation. The third is from the MENA region. So it's like a professor who can support your work. So you have 2 professors, another professor that can help you write the proposal and be on the committee of acceptance. So once you write the proposal, so we have different types of how to apply for the proposal. So the proposal has also application. You have to write a 5 pages proposal of your research idea. So here I say research because we are doing research more as a transdisciplinary in reconciliation process. So you have to understand, like, you are studying how to develop reconciliation in a field or in a discipline. So you can develop reconciliation in economics, in social sciences, in many social science aspects, in mathematics, maybe in management, in IT, as I did it in IT, and then in different other religion as well. So this you can also think of it. So I want to apply reconciliation research in different aspects. You can choose which aspect, but you have to make in mind that the professors will be, one professor is professor in reconciliation studies or peace studies, and the other professor is in transdisciplinary research, might be your own proficiency. So if you are in political science, so it will be a professor of reconciliation plus a professor from political science. If you are in religion, you can be in a professor of reconciliation and professor of religion studies as well. So I have a master's degree in computer science, so my professor will be in computer or IT, and as well at the same time a professor of reconciliation. So one is the main, the other the second, and then the third is from the MENA region that can support your idea and recommend you and help you in writing the proposal. So this is one aspect that you have to make in consideration. So now I told you what is transdisciplinary research is. Transdisciplinary research, like I'm in political science, for example, and I'm developing reconciliation in an aspect of political science. And how can I say about reconciliation in between Qatar and Saudi Arabia in social media, for example? Did it happen? How can it happen? Or I want to study research this area. So for example, or reconciliation in religious studies, or in the divine text of three religions. Some people here we have some people who are writing this. Economic reconciliation in conflict. And then you have to put the case study. Israel-Palestinian conflict, for example. You can have an Egyptian problem between the Coptics and the Muslims, the Moroccan between the government and the people. So it's totally Algeria as well. You can Algeria and France. So this is how it is in different aspects. So the relation of RPS and AARMENA. What is the relation? The relation RPS is reconciliation and peace studies, is related to the AARMENA. AARMENA, as you know now, we have long-term and short-term goals. So the long-term, you become part of the AARMENA, a very huge academic alliance for developing reconciliation in the Middle East and North Africa, and you can participate in many conferences, symposium around the world that we did. Like last year, this year actually, we participated in Tokyo. And some of you participated in the Tokyo conference as well. So this is the relations of RPS and AARMENA, that you are not just a PhD student in the AARMENA, you also can participate in all the AARMENA activities, the conferences, the workshops. You can be part of it. So do I need an MA degree? Yes, you need an MA degree. This is a very important thing. Sometimes in Germany, you don't need an MA degree, that you can jump over the MA degree and get a PhD without having an MA degree. This is in Germany is happening, and it is accepted, but you have to have very high qualified, requirements to really get accepted. It's very hard. So I prefer that you have a master's degree and that you wrote a thesis. Some people did not write a thesis, so not writing a thesis might be difficult. We can accept people without thesis, but it will be it will be very, very difficult for you. You have to write the proposal. So this will come after that. I will explain to you what is the proposal and how you write the proposal and how you can advance in the proposal. So how should I write my 5 pages draft pitch for my PhD research? So before you submit your proposal over 25 pages or 20 pages, first you have to apply for us in a 5-page, like we call it pitch. Those 5 pages, we read them. And if your idea is kind of accepted, we let you pitch it in front of me or in front of our colleagues, not the professors. Maybe the professor will be there, it's up to them. And then we tell you to advance into the 20 pages. Once you advance, when we say yes, you can submit the 20 pages, then means that the first professor, you have first acceptance, bit acceptance. From the first professor, you might have a second acceptance, but you need the full proposal. Now, within this process of 5 pages to 20 pages, you can be part of the AARMENA sessions. So you not like if you did not apply till today, that does not mean that you cannot be part of the AARMENA sessions. AARMENA sessions, which takes once a week every Friday, it's about developing the capacity of the PhD students. It's not just PhD students, also the PhD candidates. So we want you to come, even that you are in the applying mode. So you study with us 4 months or 8 months or 1 year, and you can stay studying until you get accepted, because this is how you build your capacity. We understand you, you understand us, we get to know you, get to know the professors, you understand our approach, as you have to understand. We develop what we say a new contribution to science. So some people apply for us that they do research. The PhD program is not just research. It's a contribution to science. So this is that's the difference between a master and a PhD. A master is a chapter of a PhD. So if you come and do a research and say, I do a scientific research, okay, but that's not a PhD alone. You have to apply and devote the contribution to science. So when you think of a research question, you have to understand what the research area you are studying has to have a contribution to science into it. If you're just doing research to do a research, we will discover that, and you can get an MPhil after that, which is not what we want you to get. We want you to get a real PhD, or you might not get accepted in the PhD, and this is a big problem as well. So here is the situation. You start being part of the AARMENA Ph.D. program, coming once a week every Friday, understanding and studying the concepts of AARMENA Ph.D. program and the sessions that we are making. At the same time, you are writing your 5 pages or your 20-page proposal. So this is how it's working. So let's see here. When can I apply? You can apply any time. How much time does it PhD take? Actually, 3 years. This is what everyone says, 3 years. Sometimes it takes 3 to 5. Let me be honest with you, it takes 3 to 5 years to do it. Funding availability. The funding, because I said this before, it's a public university, so the funding can be available if you get an acceptance. You can apply in Germany. There's a lot of institutions that you can apply for and get funding from. So it's not just that. You can Google them online. There's a lot of NGOs that funds a PhD for 3 years, because they pay taxes and they need to deduct it from their taxes. So to them, it's okay, but you need to know who to apply and where to apply and when to apply. Is there a university cost, for example? The per semester for us is 270 euros. So Germany is public university, so it's cheap, the education. So you can register for 270 euros. Now, we are part of the Graduate Academy. So if you go to the University of Vienna website, the Graduate Academy is responsible for all PhD programs in Vienna, all of it. So we are part of them, and there's a lot here. You can go to their website here by clicking on this. And they also develop a lot of programs for the doctoral students. And the program costs about 50 euros to enroll. And the program will be like 5 to 6 days or 1 week. Where you study, they bring a professional where he teaches you, like, for example, writing proposals. Or maybe 2 days of how to get funding. They get you, or about how to understand how to do analysis, how to write an academic paper, how to write an article, how to get published, how to develop management, how to develop research projects. So this is in the Graduate Academy. They have about 50 classes. Now the enrollment has nothing to do with the PhD program itself. It's connected with the PhD program, but you get a cheap price for enrolling. It's 50 euros only they take. We are just part of it. That means that you can enroll with it. And you can benefit from all the programs that they have. So this is about the frequent asked questions. So how to apply for a PhD? So how to apply for a PhD? So we said about the 5 pages. Here you can see what is formulated of the 5 pages. And then here how it is, you have a submission of the idea. You have to, like, then we tell you to apply for 20 pages after we accept it. And after the 20 pages you apply, we bring you back to speak in front of the 2 professors. You have to, with a presentation of a PowerPoint, you present your PhD program in front of the 2 professors that accepted you. So this is and of course to apply for admission. After you get accepted by the two professors, you have to apply for admission. And admission is another little bit more complicated because then you talk to the social science behavior dean office, and then we apply a contract and we sign contracts between the professors, two professors, and AARMENA Ph.D. program as well, and you to be part of it, and that you are going to attend for 3 years and becoming a PhD candidate, a PhD student. As you know, we have a WhatsApp group, and once you get approval, this is like what you need to send to the dean office. And the motivation letter, and this is exactly how you really apply for it. So I think, so this is about the PhD program. There is another thing about the proposal. The proposal must be about 20 pages. I will try to check for you a proposal and to go over the proposal. So we can, just a moment, I will try to get a proposal. I'm opening the proposal for you. Okay, is there any question now before I go into the proposal? Do you have any questions or should I continue? So I see there's no questions. So I will continue. Let's see now, I will share for you the proposal. So usually we are working with Rawan and Zinat to this proposal, and Zinat will help you and guide you in all its aspects. So Zinat is responsible for applying for people who want, or students who want to apply for a PhD program. She's willing to help you. You can write her an email, and she's willing to help you and in any questions on how to advance in logistics. So this is the PhD program. We can give it to you as well. This is the template. Usually, if you stick to the template, it's better, so you don't get lost while you are doing the proposal. So here, as you say, you have the title, and then you have the title of the PhD program, and you have the acronym. And then you have an introduction about the candidate. You can put an introduction about yourself. State of the art or short abstract means like short abstract, why you are doing this research, what makes this research special. Not unique, there's no unique research. You have to understand, all the research around the world, there's a lot of people that did your research. But you have to write your own perspective, the state of the art, how did you get to this idea? This is what we mean to state of the art. And why you want to do it, why it makes it important for you that it is, and what is the literature for it. You can also elaborate in the state of the art. Then you have the PhD program submission, and then you have research hypothesis. So we'll go about, let's see, introduction to candidate, as you see, state of the art, the program process for submission, how do you get acceptance, as well. We still talked about that. Research and hypothesis. So it's very important to understand the research and hypothesis. So you have to develop first, as we say, literature review, and then you have to develop the theoretical framework, and then you have the methodology. So you have the theoretical literature review about it, which we stated the state of the art, and then you can talk about the research hypothesis, or what we call theoretical framework. It depends now. If you are following a theory, then you do a theoretical framework, and then you can do the methodology after it. So the theory that we follow here is, Niana, that might help you a lot, is the Holderman perspective and the applied Fornesius for reconciliation process. Those are two theories embedded together. You can understand them, and you can say that I want to follow that methodological theoretical framework, and then you write the methodology, how you're gonna do it. Yeah, because this is applied Fornesius for reconciliation process. It does qualitative, quantitative research, mixed method research design. So it will make it easier for you just at the start to just finish a proposal. You know, when you are doing your research, everything will change. It's not going to stay as the same. So I prefer that you start with theoretical framework, and then you start with state of the art, theoretical framework, and then methodologies. So this I will not read, but here is like some topics that you can consider if you want to write by your own. So you can read like for John Galton, the Hysteria of Peace, and also John Paul Ledrech actually developed what he is inspires, including critical reflections. You can talk about the French-German reconciliation, for example, German-Czech reconciliation, reconciliation with a native population in the MENA region, Bedouins, research on reconciliation on peace aspects in the MENA region, reconciliation in Algeria. So as you see, reconciliation with refugees, heritage, digital humanities and reconciliation projects, the integration of peace and reconciliation studies in its process. And this is itself is a different aspect as well. These are some topics that you can apply ethics and digital humanities for reconciliation and peace studies. These are the topics that you can adhere. Now, the PhD that you write is a monograph. Monograph means at the end it must be a book. So you have to publish a book at the end. If you can't publish a book, what we do is like we let the library publish it for you. So when we see monograph, in the proposal itself, you have to write the chapters that the name of the chapters, a table must have the name of the chapter, the number of pages, and the number of months that you need to apply, that you need to finish the chapter. For example, chapter 1, I am going to talk about reconciliation in the middle of conflict, for example. 40 pages, I will finish it from 3 months. This is chapter 1. Well, maybe chapter 2 will be in the methodology. 40 pages, I will finish it in 4 months. So all the months together must contribute to 36 months, and you must have about 10 chapters maybe. So PhD requirement, there's not much about PhD requirements that you have to have you write as a CV, the proposal, and then you have to have a bachelor degree and a master degree. Usually the second professor will be from your master degree, specialized, the same specialty that you were in your master degree. So here is like the timetable. This is very important that a lot of people don't check is the timetable. See, as you see, this is how the proposal, this must be inside your proposal. It's very important. So you have chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you have a duration, 6 months, 8 months, as you want to wish. You have here 3 years, here a number of pages. And then you put bibliography or references. Here we put for you some references about reconciliation and all of this. And these are like books of reconciliation. And then you say annex is my CV. So these are how you write, how these are most the conceptions of a proposal. So we can like just give you like a brief, I can tell you. So here we can go after an introduction of the candidate, about yourself, who you are, a page about the state of the art, which is a literature review, you can write. And then a PhD submission, this is the research hypothesis, can be, first you can write the research hypothesis and then write the theoretical framework and then do the methodology. And after you reach that point, those 3 points, you're finished, you write the timetable and then you write the bibliography. And then you have a 20 pages proposal and you can submit it. So this, I think, what we have here. Let's say I will check just the website if there any else that we can think about that we missed. So I think this is nearly narrow it down. Any questions? Do you have any questions that you would like to ask before we, continue? Okay, so Nora is asking a question. Okay. I can answer Nora's question. Nora, yes. No, first you write a dissertation, and then you make your defense, and then after the defense and you get accepted, everything, you publish the book. Now, there's 2 ways to publish it. You can give your dissertation to the library, and the library will publish it with about 20 with the libraries in Germany. So this is, and then you are considered published. The old way is that you go to a publisher and really publish your book with a publisher. But this is very hard. They understand, then you don't take your certificate unless you are published. This is the law. So the best thing, as I did it first, is like I did my defense, wrote the dissertation, did my defense, went to the library, gave them 10 copies. They switched them all, they gave them to the Frankfurt National Library, and they gave it also to the National Library in Munich and in Berlin. And then I went to a publisher and worked on my book for publication. So that's how it's done. So yes, Bayan has a question. Okay, you can ask Bayan.
Thank you, Dr. Iyad. How I can to contact Zinat to get proposal form?
Her email. You don't have her email? I can give you her email right away, by the way. So I will put Zinat. Zinat had to go because her daughter is sick, so she had to leave. So this is Zinat's email. You also can CC me, so I can also follow it as well. So any other questions that would like to ask me? Do you understand how this is happening and how you apply for it? The other thing I want you to make it sure that we are doing contribution to science. We're not doing politics. I see a lot of political dissertation that come to me from different places, from Yemen actually, and from different people from Egypt. It's all politicized against groups, and for us, if this is we are more into science. Also in Algeria, we can't say that we're against any government, or we are going to write against government or accept a PhD that is writing against the government. So this is not a PhD. This is a political behavior. So we are not in politics. We are in science. So for me, or for our institution, contribution to science. So when you're writing a proposal, a PhD proposal, think of what you are contributing to science, your idea, how your idea contributes to science. If you want to say that my idea contributes to science by saying that the French are killers and they should be held on crimes for justice, this is not a contribution to science. So I want you to make sure this is not a contribution to science. Contribution to science, for example, to understand why the French, for example, are refusing to do the apology. What is the narrative behind it? Why is it? And what is the objective? This is different. This is then you're understanding the narrative of the perpetrator or the narrative of the victim. At the same time, and writing a full research proposal, how can you develop reconciliation between two entities? So see, this is transformed into a political discussion, into a scientific discussion. So you are, when you apply for a PhD, you are becoming a scientist. Becoming a scientist is not to put your own thoughts inside, but to be balanced. Balanced means that you are the real. One of the applied for Mises research concept is to become reality. So I cannot write something that is not real or not part of reality. As he told you, if you ask the beautiful woman in the concept of Miss Universe, what do you like to happen to the world? She's like, peace for the world. So this is not gonna happen. So if I want to write in my PhD, I want to do peace between Israel and Palestine. This is not a scientific research. So this is like, if we write this, we read exactly, me and Luis, we read before sending it to the professor, to the scientific board. Because if it goes to the scientific board that someone wants to do peace between some two countries or two groups, they know it's not scientific work, and they know the guy is very, living in a different world, so it's not science, he'll never get accepted. So let me just show you something here important about it. We have a scientific board. Let me show you the scientific board that we have, so you know what I'm talking about. I'll share it. So if you go up here, so when you go to the PhD program, we have teams. So here we have two, as you see, we have the AARMENA Fellows. AARMENA Fellows are professors from the Arab world that can be the third party that you would like to contact and recommend him and recommend you to the PhD program. And here is the scientific board. It's professors from Vienna that are working with us on the PhD program. Now it's the list is bigger, but this is what we've not updated yet, but we'll update it soon as well. We'll have more people that can be part of this. So you have another question? Help find additional supervisors or do students reach out? No, we help you to find additional supervisors. You can reach out for other professors if you in Vienna, and you can contact them. We have no problem with that. You can it's us and you together. So we are trying our best that we reach out for the second supervisor. So that's what I wanted to tell you, that we can reach out for that. So yeah, if you have in mind a second supervisor you would like to work with, you can contact him, tell him I'm part of the AARMENA Ph.D. program and I have one professor acceptance and I would like it to be my second supervisor. So this is also can happen. And do they just come from Friedrich University? Yes, no, they have to be from Friedrich University. They have to be, it's a must. Not from Friedrich Schiller. The first is from Friedrich Schiller University. The second can be from any German university, but he has to have a professor title, full professor title in Germany, professor doctor. Otherwise, he cannot be. So we have like students who have professors here and Erfurt at the same time. So the first professor is from Jena and the second professor from Erfurt. So this is and now the third one is just for recommendation and helping you to be accepted in the pitch area and when you present your PowerPoint. So this is any other questions? So
Yeah, Dr. Iyad, may I ask two things here?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first thing is just let's say that once I submit the proposal and I get the acceptance. So how about the study? Is it going to be online or is it going to be in Germany? Must be.
Now the study, now you have to separate between two things. The one thing is the AARMENA Ph.D. program, and the other thing is the supervision. So the supervision between two professors, it depends on the professor. Some professors tell you, oh no, I don't like to speak online. Come to Jena. So you come to Jena to meet him once a week. Whenever you want, you can come here for like 3 months, 2 months, just to work on your PhD with a professor. And then you can it's flexible. It's a part-time PhD program, so you can go and come back. You don't need to stay. This is not a bachelor degree or master degree where you stay here in the university. And the thing that you need also to be connected with the professors. So if the professor liked you, let's say I am free in April, and you can come and we can discuss your PhD work. So you study work from January to April, and then you write your PhD chapters, and then you submit it to the professor, and the professor will read it and give it back to you, and then you can just study and see what you want, and then if you want to meet him, you can ask him, when are you free? And he will tell you, I'm free for 1 week, and these are the dates when I'm free, and then you can come to your professor. This is the supervision. So the supervision that you come to Jena, and now for the PhD program can be online. It's AARMENA, that's the 3 hours per week. It is online, it's hybrid. You can come to Jena, or you can also take it online. Usually until now, we are making it via Zoom, because we even that Zoom to us is a good platform until today. So, but it is also here. You can come here and you can work here as well. So I hope this answers the question. So the supervision, you can come here and stay for 3 years, if you like, for the supervision. For the PhD program, we are doing it hybrid. So it might be that it is online. The supervision is not online. The supervision is with the professors. They might want to, it depends on you what you like. You want to stay here for 3 years, it's up to you. You can stay for 3 years and work on your PhDs, because it takes a lot of time, needs a lot of work, and you need to give it time. This is what I want to tell you. Now for the PhD program, AARMENA PhD program, it's once a week, and you can need to attend, either to attend here while you are here, you can attend, or you can attend hybrid. So until now we are doing it hybrid for the PhD program. I think now you understand the separation between two. So for example, you have 2 professors, you are supervising you, so you are writing your PhD program and you are meeting them. You can meet them frequency when you come here, for example, for 3 months, and you meet them within the 3 months. and then you don't meet them every day. This is not a master program. You meet them maybe once a week, or maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depends on you how you are working. Maybe you finish the chapter, and you feel like, for example, you finish the first chapter and you send that to the professor. He reads it, writes his comments, and then you meet him again. So this is a supervision of a PhD program. Now, the PhD program, that's the OP seminar is once a week, and the OP seminar is not the supervisor coming to teach you. The supervisor is not teaching the OP seminar. The OP seminar is a PhD program to empower you and to give you the skills of being a PhD student, and to like open for you the thoughts. So this is what we bring different, like today we brought a professor of economics, for example. Then we had a professor of political science, professor of Wolfgang Peace Studies, Professor Leiner. I'm also bringing a professor in Korea, from North Korea. She wanted to come today, but she doesn't feel very well. So the PhD program is different than the supervision itself. But you have to attend the PhD program. The PhD program, as you know, it's once a week. And you can attend it online. So we have no problem that you attend online. It's okay with us, and you can attend while you are here. It's also with us. Depends on the people we bring as guest speakers or professors who are teaching. Depends on them. If they are online, they are teaching it online, so you can be online. If they are not online and teaching it here in Jena, you can come here in Jena and also take the course. It's not a course, it's a seminar. So that's the difference. But you have now to understand a PhD program is different than a master program, different than PhD program. Different than bachelor degree. It's a seminar. So the seminar that we are having is once a week. And as you know, the seminar is not only students. You have students, professors. It's like an enlightenment session. This is how I see it. But if you do not come to the seminars, for example, you cannot continue. It will be very difficult for you to write the proposals or to do the supervision. So this is seminars, they empower you. So if you don't come to the seminars, and you only depend on the supervision itself, you have weakened yourself. So both of them are connected together. So let's say you're writing about reconciliation and you're reading about reconciliation, but it is very powerful when I bring you a professor who speaks about reconciliation in different aspects, in economy, on political science, different professors. So you get more empowered how to write, where to write, what to research, than just depending on yourself and to write for the supervision. So the PhD program will empower you to write your thesis. At the same time, you'll need the two supervision of professor. Without both of these two, you are very weak. And this is what I try to tell everyone. So you cannot depend on yourself that I will write the PhD alone, and then I will talk to the professor and write it alone. No, you cannot, because how do you know what is the reconciliation aspect that we are working with? There's a lot of kind of reconciliation. How would you know what we are doing exactly and how to study it, where to research it? What is transdisciplinary research for it? What is interdisciplinary research? So you get lost. You can't just jump in the ocean. You need a boat, you need a rift, you need to learn how to swim. So this is like aspect. The seminar is on your left side, the supervision is on your right side, and you are in the middle. So if you leave one of them, you are very weak. This is what I wanted to say. Yes, any question, other question than that? Abdelghani, you had a question? Yeah, I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Riyad, for the information. But I left my question till the end in order not to interrupt the information concerning my case. This last week of the fourth month of the 4 months. Okay, so I'm not sure of my case till now. So I don't have to contact Zinat as just I contact you, right?
You are
and I'm in the final. What?
You are in the final phase.
Yeah.
Yes. So the situation. Yeah. What?
I'd like to know if I'm gonna contact a certain professor like Skimmage, for example, or you have already contacted them in order not to duplicate the application.
So is no, you are in a very advanced. So you have the first professor Leiner has accepted your PhD dissertation, and now we submitted your dissertation for now 4 or 5 months for a second professor. It might be Professor Schmidt, actually, if he accepts, then you are in. So I'm waiting for his decision. Once you need to come, if you want me, I can tell this in front of everyone. It's up to you. This is private, but it's up to you if you want to share it with everyone.
It's okay.
But you are in a good position. What?
Okay, thank you for your motivating words, and it's okay if you'd like to share it. It's okay for me. It doesn't matter.
So
But,
okay, we take Abdul Ghani as Abdul Ghani has been writing his dissertation. He's doing it on religious studies. The religious studies in Jena is one of the difficult. Actually, I want to tell you that Jena, University of Jena, is very famous for philosophy. So they are #1 in Europe in philosophy. To be honest with you, this is a very prestigious to be part of it. And he has been writing for the field of religious studies, and religious studies is very hard to be accepted. But he is in the final phase, so he might be accepted. And now we are contacting the religious studies. So we are doing reconciliation and religious studies and conflict transformation. So it's like reconciliation, religious studies in peace studies. This is like 3 themes. And we have acceptance of Professor Schmidt and Professor Leiner that they will take 5 PhD students to start that are interested in comparative religion. So if you are interested in comparative religion, reconciliation and peace studies, mostly reconciliation and comparative religion. This is the two aspects. We have now Professor Schmidt. We'll let him give you a lecture next month or when we have a session, and he is specialized in comparative religion. So, and he's willing to take 5 PhD students if this acceptance way, and he likes how we are working, and he wants to be part of it. So we have so we are advancing. So if you are going to do it, please send me an email, and I can promote you to Professor Schmidt. And this is how he wants it. You need to come to Jena, for example. Abdul Ghani will need to come to Jena to present in front of Schmidt and Professor Leiner in Jena. They don't want online. He doesn't want online to the presentation to be. It has to be in Jena, so we will send Abdul Ghani an invitation letter so he can come to Jena and present his PhD dissertation in front of Schmidt and in front of Professor Leiner. And I think this is like his final phase, and he's nearly accepted. So, and Schmidt has said to me personally that he's willing to take 5 PhD students as well. So if you are interested to be accepted in a very fashioned way, we have a professor who's accepting to take from the AARMENA 5 PhD students. So we don't need to look for a professor. We have 2 professors now that are willing, and but he's willing in comparative religion and reconciliation. So if this is your thesis part, you can apply, and we're happy to promote you to Professor Schmidt and Professor Leiner. So Kimberly, is there student housing? What? Is there a deadline?
You would like me to
What?
You would like me to send anything else, or okay, I can contact you on the email in order not to take time. Okay.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you,
okay,
Dr. Riyad.
The deadline is like that. So people ask him deadline. Every semester you join us for a semester or 2 semesters, 1 year. And within this 1 year, you write, while you are attending the PhD program, that's once a week, you start writing your 20 pages PhD. Once you finish the 20 pages PhD proposal, you send it to us. We are, before we send it to the scientific board, we do it to the research board, which is me and Luis and another 2 postdocs. So we read your proposal and we tell you how to fix it and to amend it, to make it better, and to make it a very high standard proposal. So the first takes 3 drafts. The first drafts you write for us, we read it, we tell you how to fix it. Second draft, we read it and send it back to you. You send us a second draft, we read it, we tell you how to. Third draft, you send it, we read it. And then once we see it, it's very good, we send it to the scientific board. Once you write the 3rd draft, we already have an acceptance of the first professor. Might be one of the scientific board. And then we look for you for a second supervisor. If you have someone in mind, you can also promote him. About the housing, housing in Jena is very difficult, one of the hardest. So it's very difficult, and I think Rawan had not a very good experience in it. And it's like online, and you need to look for housing. Jena is a university town, So I cannot do much about housing. There's websites that you can contact, and there's like they put all the houses online, and you can check which house. But usually it's best that you are here. You can use Airbnb if it's a short term. Airbnb, a lot of students do it. But if you're staying here for a longer term, it's better to really rent a place. Usually, to find a place in Vienna, try at the end of the year, like now, where students are leaving and the contracts are ending. Otherwise, you cannot find a place. It's very difficult to find a place in the middle of the year. And you can rent a house and not come now. Like usually here is what happened, like it's October and the houses are empty in January. So the landlord will tell you, oh, I am free in January, so you can reserve the house for yourself from January. So this is how it can happen. Another question? So I see there's no other. There's a question.
No, thank you, Dr. Thank you.
Okay. So anyone who wants to be, Professor Schmidt decided to be a second supervisor. So anyone who wants Professor Schmidt to be his second supervisor or first supervisor, please send me an email and I will hook you all together. So I think by this, I think we finish our session for today. We have eight minutes, and I don't know if you have any questions that are on your mind that you have to ask, you can tell me. So I think this is our session. Thank you very much for being here. Okay. And if you need anything, send me an email, and I'm ready to answer all your questions and really help you. And start writing the proposal, even that you are attending the PhD program. So thank you so much, and I'm looking forward that you all have a doctorate at the end, and you became doctors, Dr. Abdelghani, Dr. Ilyas, Dr. Kimberly. So I really, Benani, helpful, and try my best. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you very much, Dr. Riyad. See you again next week.
See you next week.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you very much, Dr. Riyad.
All right.
Thank you.
I will end it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Iyad.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Iyad.
Thank you, Professor Omar. It's good to see you.
Inshallah.
Shall see you soon.
After tomorrow.
After tomorrow. Yeah.